A clean house keeps clean spirits. Sweep your floors, mop with intention, wipe down your mirrors. Spirits notice who has open space for them and who doesn't. Don't play with things you don't understand. Just because you saw it on TikTok don't mean you're ready. Learn the tradition first. Hoodoo is root work. It's protection, healing, justice. It's how Black folks kept their babies safe. You calling this evil? Baby, hoodoo was born from survival. It's what our ancestors carried when they had nothing but chains and a prayer.
Greetings and salutations, divine, all blessed greetings and salutations, honor and respect, honor and respect, honor and respect. It is another edition of Revolutionary Hoodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. Powered, produced, promoted, sponsored, and supported by NOIVD, New Orleans International Voodoo Day. We invite you to become a part of something extraordinary. New Orleans International Voodoo Day is not just an event, it is a movement that celebrates culture, fosters education, and connects people from around the globe. By sponsoring this event, you're supporting a tax deductible cause that preserves heritage, uplifts art and education, and fosters healing within the community and beyond. Your sponsorship goes beyond promoting your business. It demonstrates your commitment to cultural preservation and education while supporting a unique event that brings international recognition to New Orleans. Events like symposiums, art exhibitions, sacred processions, and global speakers offer unparalleled opportunities to honor history and inspire a brighter future. Supporting an event like this means empowering a community, enriching cultural understanding, and making a meaningful impact on the world. It connects your brand to a celebration that values unity, diversity, and progress while helping preserve traditions for generations to come. Join us in creating a legacy. Explore our sponsorship tiers and help us make New Orleans International Voodoo Day an unforgettable celebration. Today, we can uplift the community and indeed inspire the world. And we're certainly grateful for your continued support and participation in this 9 p.m. Central Standard Time weeknight podcast. We will reintroduce and open the mics of our beloved co hosts momentarily after I introduce a new subject matter, same topic, but a slightly different subject matter. Tonight, we want to talk about, and more specifically, Leafy Anderson and the success of Black spiritualism in New Orleans, and subsequently how that affected the nation. At the start of the 20th century, Leafy Anderson, a strong minded woman of African and Native American ancestry, made the shrewd choice to bring Black spiritualism to the rich cultural intersection of New Orleans. When Mother Anderson arrived from Chicago to start her Church of Eternal Life, the city's unique crossroads of ancestral and religious heritage set the stage for her movement. And unlike so many Black Americans heading in the opposite direction in 1920, Leafy Anderson's strategic design or decision to go downriver to New Orleans to an interracial community of Africans, Native Americans, and by cross pollination, Creoles, is the reason for her mission's accelerated success. Considered here are the ways in which New Orleans was a fortuitous choice by Mother Anderson, and how by elaborating on indigenous voodoo symbolism, she supported her mission by including a polarity in her spirit practice to signify tension and oppression. While Anderson had begun several other churches in Detroit, St. Louis, Little Rock, and Memphis, none thrived as this one did. And within 10 years, 100 Black churches could be called spiritual churches in New Orleans. all stemming from Anderson's original Amelia Street Church of Eternal Life. The confluence of demographics, social politics, and the historical significance of oppression within the Voodoo community provided a fertile theater for her church to grow in New Orleans. With analogous references of duality, Haitian Voodoo too centered its spiritual interpretives on protection and freedom. Anderson ironically denounced Voodoo and publicly claimed it had no connection to her spiritual church. But Anderson clearly built on this infrastructure, using polarity symbols of struggle against oppression, not as a negative phenomenon, but rather a colorful, dynamic opportunity for change. For centuries, the intersection of slave trade in New Orleans linked the coast of Africa to the New World, protracting persecution for the Black community from the early 18th century on, and introduced African ritualism to the Crescent City. In 1791, another event precipitated a demographic shift. The Haitian Revolution brought hundreds of retreating free people of color to New Orleans from their war-torn country, nearly doubling the city's population, two-thirds of whom were Black or colored. Extending the boundaries of West African influence, many Haitians were from Dahomean and Yoruban tribes, bringing with them the practices of voodoo. Nowhere in the country was there such an ethnic and cultural demographic for people of color. Combined with indigenous Native American and Christian customs, this unparalleled synchronistic opportunity became the foundation for Anderson's church. Historically, Christianity and voodoo have been complementary, which further allowed Black spiritualism to grow in New Orleans. Calling on deities within and beyond both faiths served Anderson's mission against oppression. Voodoo practitioners look to a supreme being, not unlike the Christian God, and to a pantheon of friendly ancestral deities, commonly known as Loa, easily related to Christian saints. And for this reason, Lethe Anderson would interchangeably employ deities from Christianity and voodoo in her church, and found even more spiritual resources in Native American tribal customs specific to the Mardi Gras Indian. She was able to draw on the rich confluence of ceremonial pageantry, benefiting also from the congregational influence of Protestantism and her hands-on laity involvement in spirit worship. Most importantly, she adopted Black Hawk, the spirit of Black Hawk, the complex Native American warrior mediator, as her spirit guide, a move that set Black spiritualism apart from other faiths. The Illinois Sook, defeated in the Black Hawk War, was the face of Anderson's Black spiritualism. Mother Dora Townsend, Mother Dora Tyson, a prestige or protege of Anderson's, recalled when Mother Anderson first came down here. She told us that she wanted us to pray to Black Hawk because he was a great saint for spiritualism only. And resonating with the respected African Creole Mardi Gras Indian tribe indigenous to Louisiana and associated with courage, defiance, and independence, Black Hawk shared the role of a colorful male freedom warrior, making New Orleans a prime location for Anderson to introduce another Native American hero. Oppression in the Black community had long dominated New Orleans since the French colonialists captured indigenous natives in 1710. A harsh decree based on the French Code Noir to classify relations between masters and slaves in the Louisiana colony mandated that slaves adhere to Catholicism and marry accordingly. Remaining in place for a century, the Code Noir relaxed a bit after the Louisiana Purchase, but the outcome of a slave uprising outside New Orleans in 1811 resulted in a stricter enforcement to a police state. A renowned cloud of strict oppression, or a renewed cloud of strict oppression well after the emancipation, profoundly shaped an entire community for another 100 years. Both slaves of the New World transformed Christianity into a religion of resistance, not of revolutionary defiance, rather, one that accepted the limits of the politically possible. This is an important distinction to draw out, since the historically defeated attitude of the Black community in New Orleans needed Anderson's dynamic leadership, softened by her maternal protection. Blending Catholicism and African Voodoo became a resourceful exchange of rituals, a kind of spiritual maquarity, answering the need to conform and believe without making trouble within the established religious system. In Anderson's church, one could keep the faith while raising a fist. And if necessary, she would step up or advocate for her followers or even lead them to a spirit guide of their own. Powerlessness has been a constant for Black people up until the 1960s, suffering Jim Crow laws. It is not difficult to imagine disenfranchised Black women in 1920 New Orleans, profoundly ambivalent to speak out, who forged an enduring bond with Black spiritualism. Hans Bayer, who writes mostly from the perspective of racial stratification, calls Anderson's appeal the thaumaturgical and manipulationist, manipulationist, thaumaturgical and manipulationist opportunity for Black leadership talents in the face of racial degradation. And although a valid observation, the racial stratification lens is a limited one and not the only explanation. Leafy Anderson's spiritual churches were surely a means for her advocacy, but equally important was the notion of spirit possession, emphasized in New Orleans as a sincere practice of divine inspiration and belief. Income garnered from her services were substantial, creating a bit of controversy, but it primarily went to foster hundreds of other churches that relied on spirit possession to shape the outcry against persecution. Historically, raising a Black voice was not permitted in New Orleans, with one exception that significantly changed the course of Black culture and became a model for Anderson's church. Congo Square was dusty crossroads in the Treme, yet another intersection that created a sacred crucible for the African community to share tribal traditions since 1718 and combine the soil of three continents for a full century before Anderson arrived. A critical exception of the Code Noir, it deeply consecrated the ritual of gathering, primarily to express feelings within a form of worship. On the Sabbath, free people of color were permitted to mingle with slaves in the square, singing, dancing, sharing ancestral stories, and colorful pageantry, a precious respite against isolation and frequent punishments. The dances and songs from Congo Square have continued in church practice. The kalinda and the bambula, the most popular syncopated Congo dances in Congo Square, can be heard in second line dancing in New Orleans today. and many rituals in Black spiritualism can be traced back to the pageantry there. Congo warrior songs paired with Malinke healing invocations underscore the duality of two tribes acting as warrior healer, critical to how Black spiritualism built a binary model of holding two contradictions at once. Mother Anderson consistently employed music in her ritual, but with a 20th century sensibility. According to a churchgoer, Robert McKinney, she had a red hot six-piece swing band that played the hymns in jazz time. She made the church swing all the time. Congo Square was not only an intersection of streets, it was a metaphoric crossroads of the physical and spiritual world, an image of polarity seminal to Anderson's Black spiritualism. Horizontal and vertical axes corresponded to the physical and spiritual, to vertical plunging to the subterranean, to the ancestors and deities, becoming a living organism of this immediate moment and this particular space. Appealing to traditional deities and mystical forces, slaves could keep their link with Africa. Free to express feelings of pain and joy, Anderson's audience held the same devotion for the divine and the mundane simultaneously, much like the Sunday rituals that continue to this day in Congo Square. And for almost a century in Congo Square, an important precursor to Leafy Anderson was Marie Laveau, the charismatic voodoo queen who mesmerized whites and blacks alike, who provided a befitting model from which Anderson could draw. After Laveau's migration from Haiti, she ruled the voodoo community by 1830, and with provocative animus, awe-inspiring theater, and spirit worship enhanced by exotic appeal as a free woman of color, she directly connected to an affirmation of female power against male degradation, particularly among slaves. The parade against machismo was a means for liberation from oppression and often employed the warrior spirit of Saint Daniel. Voodoo, cross-sex impersonations, and role exchange were commonplace, illustrating gender polarities of the spirits. Anderson elaborated on Laveau's reputation and ritual, protesting against sexual discrimination using the duality of male-female warrior spirits. Where Marie Laveau was known for influencing police, freeing people from jail, and working fierce powers of persuasion, Anderson's similar success with authorities, as in her release from court by predicting a dire illness of the magistrate's child, signified the revered powers of Laveau. Anderson awed her new following and managed to serve her divine mission by expanding her church. Anderson fiercely upheld the time-honored practice of spirit possession, familiar to Black worshipers as far back as 19th century New Orleans. Specifically, the rituals for them may have involved Marie Laveau chanting supplication songs to Papa Legba, the Dahomean guardian of the crossroads, the go-between in human affairs, pointing out the obsession with intersections that endured in Anderson's church and corresponds directly to her relationship to Black Hawk, the mediator. Laveau often conducted her ceremonies with a snake called Le Grand Zombie wrapped around her head, representing control over male power. Relating this to Anderson's ceremonial male costuming brings the same message into 20th century, a modernist perspective on male domination. Voodoo spirits mounted the possessed amidst chanting and dancing while mediums quivered and convulsed as a sign of being ridden by the spirits. Laveau, Marie Laveau's snake movements identical to the Benin Dambala snake ritual, would eventually take the congregation into rapture, possessed by the Christian spirit of Saint Daniel. This mirrors a description of spirit possession in Black spiritual church, driven by convulsive behavior, prolonged dancing and chanting, exhibiting extremes from self aggrandizement to self chastisement. Many have commented on the cathartic elements to spiritual possession, particularly appealing to women or the disenfranchised. Rather than be disowned by society, a follower can be accepted by a benevolent spirit. The possession becomes a political act, a symbolic reaction to a dependent societal status. When Anderson founded her church, Marie Laveau had just passed away, opening up a unique opportunity for a new female leader with a modern agenda. And while Anderson may have distanced herself from Laveau's legacy, her demonstrated ability to work the political system, another survival technique, clearly benefited her mission in a city where such skills were required. Particularly in New Orleans, Black women could find a particular or peculiar position of leadership that finds its cultural expression through the symbols and practices afforded by the Black voodoo tradition. And voodoo's practices during the 18th and 19th century firmly established tradition of ritually initiating women with spiritual powers as religious leaders, making New Orleans a wise location for Anderson to gain followers. And I'm going to stop there and reintroduce my beloved co-host. Greetings to all of those who are present and active in our chat. Greetings, Britt Brett, Dash, Lydia Martin, greetings and salutations. Ray Alexander, peace and blessings. Melanated and proud. St. Louis in the building. Come on in. I got a lot of family in St. Louis. Roots in St. Louis. Kirkwood. And we also want to reintroduce the beloved Queen Mother, Sister Toni Val Martinez, and Elder Reggie, also known on this platform as Green Soap. Come on in and tell me what you remember of the Black spiritual churches and the recognition and acknowledgement of the spirit power of our great mothers. In Yoruba, we might say Iyami.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Well,
good evening. Go ahead, Elder Reggie.
I'm sorry, Sister Toni. Yeah, but I was going to just start off because Divine, that was an excellent uh, passage you read. It gets me emotional because I come out of that system, and to bring it home, my grandmother, oldest sister, was physically married to one of the drummers of Mother Leafy Anderson Church. This how it ties in. Real people doing real things at real time. And so as my family extended and grew in the lower ninth ward, even though Leafy Anderson Church was uptown, the church and the practice of imbuing women with power, it just allowed these women to stand for something and to stand on top of something. But the two things that came out in Divine Prince's excellent article he read was spirit guide. Please just let me add to that. Spiritual guides are non-physical beings or entities that assist individuals in navigating life, making decisions, and overcoming obstacles. They can take various forms, including ancestors, angels, animals, spirit guides, and others. High consciousness entities. These guides communicate through symbols, dreams, and intuitive feelings, offering wisdom and support when needed. To connect with your spirit guide, you can practice mindfulness, meditation, and open yourself to their messages. And Mother Leafy Anderson spearheaded that particular path to the New Orleans area. We had conjuration, hoodoo, and forms of voodoo, but we was not necessarily tying it to a spirit guide. When she came in and she worked it with Black Hawk as a guide, as a fighter, as a protector on the wall, and to help those who was having problems, because a lot of Black people were just disenfranchised. They was poor, they had nothing, and they was living in a time and age of Jim Crowism with heavy racism. She came in and she fostered power to the people, and she asked them to call on these guides, and these guides came. People got possessed. People went for hours on end dancing, shouting, and even seeing some success. And this allowed Mother Leafy Anderson and the Black spiritual chase to take off like hotcakes in the New Orleans, in Louisiana in particular. And then it branched out. But I wanted to add that because it is the power of the spirit guides that is the formidable point to the New Orleans Spiritual Church. Thank you. Sister Toni, you can add.
Yeah, I was just thinking about in 10 years, 100 spiritualist churches in New Orleans. Anybody that know how big New Orleans is, that's a lot of churches. That's a lot of powerful women.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of churches. They didn't have 100 Catholic churches, I don't think, in New Orleans.
Nope.
Less than all any other denomination of churches. I was first introduced to Black Hawk in 1983, 83, 84, by a young man uptown on First and Daniel Street.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a beautiful altar to Black Hawk. That was my first time hearing about Black Hawk. And he baked all these delicious cakes and cinnamon rolls and everything. And he would put offerings, and he gave me, his insight on Black Hawk. And he would always say when somebody was messing with him, okay, now, when y'all hear them horse hooves coming, I don't want nobody to tell me nothing. Meaning he was going to put Black Hawk on them because they was messing with him bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that had me always in my mind thinking, if I ever hear horse hooves for no reason, I know how to address them. That's Black Hawk coming.
That's Black Hawk coming in. And another thing Mother Leafy Anderson done when she would go into service, which is all documented and read, she would imbuke like Father John, and she would come in and put on a suit. Even though she was a woman, she put on a male suit because she wanted to give that spirit guide its presence. So even though you're looking at her, look beyond her, look at the message that's coming through her. And when she would imbue Father John, she would touch people, as we call today, healing touch. She would do prophecy and things of this nature, is because that spirit guide would manifest through her. And she had to, how I'm trying to say this, she had to get the audience to see, just because she's a woman in body, you have to understand when the spirits come in, this is how they look, this how they may act, this some of the things they may do. And I thought that was important because in the New Orleans area, as I continue to read and study back then, we start breaking some of this old Christian doctrine of conservatism and limited mind thinking. And I'm grateful to Mother Leafy Anderson for bringing that energy into the city, because at the time we are talking, women didn't have any rights. They couldn't vote. They couldn't do anything. And men just was using and abusing women at alarming rate. And she came in and she empowered these women to fight back. Now, my own particular mother, which makes me love this system so much, my mama stood on that business of Mother Leafy Anderson. My father was there in the house, but she was a no-nonsense woman. She didn't take nothing from anybody because she felt the empowerment from her church give her the audacity to stand on her business. I could go on and on, but I'm full. Thank you, Divine Prince.
They had a lot of women that stood on business back in those days. more than we would like to think, even though everything seemed to be against women so much. My mama stood on her business. She
Okay,
stood on her business, and looking back, I often wonder if it was her complexion that aided her in the way she walked in the city of New Orleans amongst white people in those days, in her young days, and even in the 60s. And
Sister
it was a
Toni, before you move forward, you said what complexion was she? That not that is it matter, but I'm just asking what complexion was
she
your
could pass for white. She looked just like me. She could pass for white. And actually we did. We would go on Canal Street, all dressed up with gloves and patent leather shoes, and go in the stores, and she would speak Creole patois to me, and I would answer her back in the few words I knew. And the salespeople would let us try on shoes, touch anything we wanted. And I remember when she went to Sears to buy me a record player for my birthday, and she didn't know nothing about what was the modern music out or whatever. So she asked the sales lady to pick out some records for her to go with the record player. My mama came home with Sonny and Cher and the Osmond brothers. So you know they thought she was white.
Yeah. But Sister
But
Toni, I have a follow-up question. What empowered her? Because I knew through Mother Leafy Anderson and the Spirit Guides empowered a lot of women. And I'm taking your mother didn't come out of that system, but where did she drew strength, power to stand on business from what you remember?
well, I think she drew it on from her abilities and her works and the way she came up. She was brought up like that because she lived in the area of New Roads. That's where she was born, New Roads, Louisiana. And her father, and it was known to everybody that he was her father. Her mother was black and Indian.
Okay.
And her father was the white man who owned the store, the general store. And white men would have to tip their hats to her because they did not want to insult her father. Because most of the time he held all they, they notes, they IOUs
Yes.
in the store. So she grew up in that kind of environment of holding her head up high and walking high and doing stuff because she knew how the other black people were treated. She told me stories of was her word. And I still slip up and do it today too. Store-bought.
Store-bought, yeah.
Store-bought mean it came out the Sears catalog. And she would get store-bought clothes. Her daddy sold cloth by the box and a few store-bought dresses and got her store-bought dresses. She would ask her daddy for store-bought dresses and wear them one time and give them away to another black girl. My mama, even though her complexion, she never, ever let nobody forget that she was black. And when they would go in town or when they would go in church on special days, to see these girls walking around in store-bought dresses that my mama then gave them, and the white people, all their daughters in the same fabric because they bought that cheap cloth, and the mother made their dresses. And that pissed people off. My mama loved to piss off white people. But she grew up like that.
Yeah.
She grew up with a certain, you can't tell me nothing, white man because of her daddy.
I'm honoring what you're saying. And I just seen a parallel as you were speaking of in the movie center. I think it was Smoke Wife or Girlfriend who not it just was similar. Had she was I don't know, similar thing though in the movie, which
Stack,
is good.
the woman Mary who was in love with Stack, they was in love with each other.
Yes.
She could pass for white.
Yeah, and that's what she was saying within that particular movie. But I knew a lot of that happened in that place. But it's good to hear, like, from you speak on that, because coming from a total different experience than that, there was judgment, prejudgment, and also some defensiveness against people who was packaged that way in my
Now,
community. And so
let
to
me tell
hear
you,
of it and to understand that some of these people are laboring, go ahead.
my father, her husband, not her first husband, but he ended up being her second husband. He was from New Roads too. And he was totally the opposite of my mama. He would not look white people in their face.
Mm-hmm.
He was 70 some years old and would not look at a white person in their face.
Mm-hmm.
And this particularly made me so angry when I went to public service with him to pay the light bill, and he talking with his head all down because the white woman is behind the counter. I get my brashness too from my mama.
Mm.
And I'm telling him in front of her face, hold your head up. What is you doing? I'm
Mm-hmm.
nudging him, like, look up. But he was dark. He was a dark man, growed up. He born the same year with my mama. It's like they was in two different towns growing up. He knew my mama when she was young. I guess he ended up being a man I never thought I would be with her.
Mm-hmm. No.
Until he was 45 years old. They got married when they was 45. By that time, my mom had them follow Marcus Garvey, been all to New York and Chicago. And he still had never left the farm in New Roads.
Got it, got it. Yeah, and see, that's what make Mother Leafy Anderson to me such a gem, because when she came in, they had just a lot of, let's just say, I would call them uptown people, which we're talking the black population. Self-esteem was running low. They couldn't look a white person eye to eye. And she came, even though she lived there for 7 years, a short period of time, she was able to imbue these people with a sense of pride again. And I'm forever grateful for that. And it's been a very interesting night. And it's the one thing about the National New Orleans Voodoo Day. Our topics be one thing, but the spirit gets involved and it just moves into all areas of life.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And my spirit guide, who I call my guardian angel, when I was
Mm-hmm.
younger, I know my guardian angel stayed with their head in their hand. Like, oh, Lord, help me, help me, help me with this one. She probably was calling for backup and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
I talked to him. I talked to him. I talked to
Yeah.
him. It's somebody I never seen before that I would know, but I have seen that because I see ghosts. And I have
Mm-hmm.
seen them and I knew it wasn't a ghost. So I say that must be
Mm-hmm.
my guardian angel looking at me like, sit down.
Yes.
Don't go
Now,
nowhere.
yeah, what Mother Leafy Anderson used to do, and we used to do it in the New Orleans spiritual churches, even when I was coming up within them. And if I go to like the Spanish sector, they call them misas, and basically they are seance. That was part of the New Orleans spiritual church. So when you're in a misa, or you within a seance, you get to see someone possess, someone speaking from the spirit. So now the collective audience is understanding what spirit it is, and what the spirit may help with and what the spirit may do. And that was the difference between, say, a Baptist, Church of God in Christ, Pentecostal, churches of that nature. They was not holding seance within the church. And that's what made the New Orleans Spiritual Church so special.
Elder Reggie, walking
Mhm.
from, you know where Caffin Avenue is, right?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes.
Johnson Avenue, right?
Yes.
Johnson Street, the intersection, the crossroads of Johnson and Falstaff and
Yes. Yes.
Caffin. When
Yes.
you walking from Falstaff Street toward Caffin, did they have a spiritualist church about 2 blocks off of Caffin, but on the corner of Johnson? And I want to say that's no, it's not Andre.
No, you're talking about. I went to that church a lot too. That was Antioch Spiritual Church. It was on Flood, 1 block off of Cap, and you come up 1 block. In
Yes.
Jordan. It was Antioch. Yes, Spiritual Church. Yes, that was
Okay, because
yes.
I walked a lot down there and I would pass that area because Johnson was my street that brought me back to Falstaff. Because I stayed on Falstaff and Galvez, so I would walk down Johnson, but I would pass there and hear the services going on. And that was the first time when I had stopped on a corner just standing there because they were singing and playing tambourines. And a lady passed me by and she said, "Oh, girl, they holy rollers, you better move." And that was the first time I think I heard that word, holy rollers.
Yes,
And I
and
was always intrigued on what was a holy roller.
yes, what they used to do fabulous Black Hawk Feast Day and all the saints. So I knew of the saints' birthdays because you can go to the feast, you get bread, food, drink. The church parishioner just would put up the money, and homeless, indigent people around the area knew on these blessed days you could go and eat. And that was a gift from the church back to the general populace. But that was Antioch Spiritual Church. But
Oh, okay.
there was a church on Falstaff in Galvez. I believe it was called Battleground.
No, Mount Carmel was on Falstaff and
That's what it was.
Galvez.
Yeah, Mount Carmel. I
Yeah,
visit. I visited that church several times. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
that
but with that
brown brick church
church, yes, yes,
that they blew up that time.
that's correct. That's correct.
the,
Yeah.
the parishioners fighting amongst each others
Mm-hmm.
and blew
Mm-hmm.
all our window panes out with that foolishness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
So
it's time for us to end the show tonight. It's been it's a real good show for me. Brought back a lot of memories. I love talking about my mama.
and you did it well. Thanks, Divine Prince, for such a powerful, powerful topic. Sister Toni, for what you added, and even bringing in family matters and like that. But for the collective audience, we are trying to say, all right, from conjuration, how did we morph to where we are today? And there was other pieces. As Divine Prince continue to open up and teach, there's other pieces to the puzzle to get us where we are today. So continue to come each night, continue to learn, and you know we love you. But I have to do what I do, and that's least we forget. The spiritual medicine of voodoo brings healing and relief from the shackles of slavery that binds the master and the slave to the same chain of social division. And this is true. And we are trying to work with that with the New Orleans International Voodoo Day. So continue to come out, continue to listen to us. We appreciate you. We love you. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Ashe, good night, everyone.
Good night, Odabo.
Mhm.
Annie represents the Great Mother, the sacred healer, the witch, the voodoo priestess. And her wisdom is actually what kept Smoke protected. And I also think that's what was protecting him while he was in Chicago, which led him back to her. They love in this movie, to me, as a black man and a black woman, was very powerful. A perfect combination when a black man and a black woman working together.
You won't make me say it?
Soil of my soil, bone of my bone, blood of my blood. Bless you.
And Smoke said he didn't believe in it, but I believe he always believed in it. Hence the mojo bag. He never took it off. Also, when his brother tried to bite him, it was the mojo bag that was protecting him. And when the vampires started to emerge, Annie was the only one who knew who they were. Annie is the one who told them how to be able to create the tools to destroy them. the wooden stake to the heart, and that garlic, baby. Yeah, go ahead, eat that garlic so I know you ain't no vampire.
Don't talk to him. You talking to me right now. Why you can't just walk your big ass up in here without an invite, huh? Go ahead. Admit to it.
Admit to what?
That you dead.
Now, the scene when the Irish vampires was doing the dance ritual is important. Actually, one of my favorite scenes as well, too, because I love the metaphor in it. Now, the indigenous tribes speak on these vampires or dark entities doing these ritualistic dances on corpses in graveyards. Now, peep how the dead African-American people surrounded him as he do his dance ritual. This is what you call mocking the culture. He's also the ringleader in the circus of the dead, you heard me? And he represents the great...
Hoodoo is root work. It's protection, healing, justice. It's how Black folks kept their babies safe. You calling this evil? Baby, hoodoo was born from survival. It's what our ancestors carried when they had nothing but chains and a prayer.
At the beginning of this, maybe I was more skeptical. As the days have gone on, I'm not sure what I think anymore.
I felt that maybe it wouldn't affect me if I personally didn't believe in it.
So, knowing what you know now, would you still get cursed?
I'm seeking out a curse, a hex to put on myself.
A curse could end your life. You're literally begging the devil to knock on your door just to prove to you that God's real.
He could curse you with stupidity, but we think you've got that down.
Despite the warnings, I'm investigating the real-world effects of dark magic.
Looks like you have a lot of love and a lot of opportunity. You are going to cause damage to that.
How do you feel after doing this?
Evil.
That must be quite seductive.
That's the power you're calling on. The devil, right? Quite seductive.
I'm going to enter into a pact with Satan.
Señor Satán, Lucifer, presentamos a este hermano. Con tu fuego purifica.
Wyong is pretty much the epicenter of all black magic. People are very scared to even talk about it.
Y'all better not call me at 2 o'clock in the morning talking about this man is dead. I don't want to hear that.
I have this physical feeling that something bad is coming. What have I done?
You're going to have to find faith in this in order to undo it.